To finish off Chapter 8, we are going to look at how to write equations of our circles. So we're going to have an equation and some graphs. So compound locus is just a set of points that satisfies more than one distinct set of conditions. So remember, we used that word locus a little earlier in this section. All right, so an equation of a circle in standard form. The standard form of an equation of a circle has a center at HK. HK will be our variables, and the radius is going to be R. So then we have our equation x minus h plus squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So I'm going to have x, I start out with minus, and then h goes there from our center, quantity squared, plus y minus k, and we will substitute these pink numbers, equals r, my radius, squared. So let's see how that looks with a couple of examples. Write in the equation of a circle with our center at 3, negative 3, and our radius at 6. So we know that our center is HK, and so 3 would be H, negative 3 would be K, and our radius is 6, so that will be our R. So I'm just going to follow this equation. So x minus 3, now because this is positive, it just goes straight in there. Our negative stays the same, plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So to simplify that, I'm going to say x minus 3 squared plus y plus 3 squared equals, and then simplifying it, 36. So if my number is a negative, it's actually going to become positive in the equation. If it's positive, it's just going to stay a negative. All right, here's another type of example. Write an equation of the circle graphed at the right. Two things we need to write an equation: the center and the radius. So our center is the point at which all points are equidistant around. So our center is at 1, up 1, 2, 3, 1, 3. And our radius is how far is the center away from the side. So it gives you 1, 2 units. So then using this equation up here, I'm going to say x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared, which would be 4. All right, go ahead and stop your video right there and do your checkpoints. Here are your answers for those two, and we'll continue on to the next page. All right, we need to write an equation using the center and a point. So maybe we're not given the radius. So what two things do we need for to write an equation of a circle? And remember, we need the center and the radius. So write an equation of a center or a circle that has a center at negative 3, 2, 3, negative 2, and passes through negative 1, negative 2. Well, we have the center point, and we have a point that is on the circle. So we are actually, that was a really good circle. We need to find that radius, or the distance between our 2 points. So to find the distance between our points, to determine the radius, and I have the wrong equation here, so that's the equation of a circle. So remember the distance formula, distance equals the square root of x2 minus x1 plus y2 minus y1. So knowing that the center is at -3, -2, and we'll just say that this is at 1, -2, we can use the distance formula to go from our center to the point on the circle. And that's what we need to write that equation. So we'll just find the distance. We'll say x2, 1 minus -3 squared plus -2 minus -2 squared. So I would get 4 squared plus 0 squared, so the square root of 16. So my radius is 4 units. So if I have my center and I have my radius, now I'm ready to write my equation. To write an equation, you need hk. So here is my h and my k, and my radius we just found is 4. And remember our standard equation, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So I'm going to say x minus h squared, remember a negative actually becomes a positive, plus y minus k squared, again that negative becomes that positive, equals 4 squared, which is 16. Alright, let's go to this one. Write an equation with the circle that has a center at -1, 0 and passes through. So if you see that passes through, you know you need to do the distance formula first from our center to our point. We need to find the distance, so we will say x2 minus x1 plus y2 minus y1. So we would say the square root of 4 squared plus 0 squared. And you're doing the distance formula in case you don't have a graph that these 2 points are on, so you can find the radius here. And then we know this is h and k, so we'll go ahead and start x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And I forgot to mention this to us at the beginning, but we'll say x plus 1 squared. Y minus 0 would be y squared, so I'm just going to leave it as y squared equals 16. Alright, going back to the beginning, I apologize. If I have a center at 0, 0, I can say it's x squared plus y squared is equal to r squared. Those h and the k's are going to kind of go away because anything minus 0 is going to be itself. So don't forget that if you have a 0, kind of like we did in this last example, we actually just become y squared. This stays by itself. Right, what if we have to graph an equation? How do we do that? Well, our equation is x minus 2 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 4. So we need to identify our center and our radius, because those are the 2 things we can get out of our equation. So we know our center is hk, so here is h and here is k. So my h is going to be 2, because my equation starts out with negative, and my k is going to be -3. Then my radius, remember, it is r squared here, so I know that my radius is the square root of 4, so my radius is actually 2. So don't forget to square root that number. So I'm going to start out by plotting my center, 2, -3, and then my radius is 2 units up, 2 units right, 2 units down, 2 units to the left, and then I am just going to connect my exterior points. Alright, not too bad. Alright, and let's go to our next example. We need, which of the following is a graph of x squared plus y squared minus 10y to equal 0? Well, we haven't seen this portion just yet, so what do we do with that? It's actually called completing the square. So I'm going to leave this portion as x squared. So we need to complete the square, so I'm going to say y squared minus 10y plus blank is equal to 0 plus blank. So I know I need, if I add something to one side, I need to add it to the other side. So how do I find that number that goes in both of those blanks? So I'm going to take this number right here, negative 10, and I'm going to divide it by 2, which would give me negative 5. So to go in those blanks, I'm going to square that number. So I'm going to put plus 25 here and plus 25 here. Now I do that because I want to factor or get this into parentheses. So what do I do next? So I'm going to take my x squared plus, to complete the square, it actually becomes y, and then I'm going to put this number minus 5 squared is equal to 25. Right, you may be thinking, where in the world did all that come from? Okay, so if I would factor this right there, I would actually come up with y minus and then 5. So if you do this portion, you are going to get this number and this number. So when you go to simplify it, then you're going to use this number, negative 5, after you divide by 2, in your simplified version. And it'll take some time. That's just something that you went over in Algebra 1. So with this, I now know that my h is 0, and my k is 5, and my radius is, should it be 25? Oh, it's the square root of 25, so my radius is actually 5. So center is at 0, 5, so that means I can cancel A and B, so, or A and C. So really, I only have B, so my center is at 0, 5, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My radius is 5, so that checks out. Alright, and last page. We are going to finish example number 5 on part 2, so come back and visit us on part 2.